Today we're going to be installing a ReadyLift part number 443054 on our 2011 Chevrolet LML Duramax 3/4 ton truck. Now you've seen this work on this truck quite a bit as far as suspension goes. We've done a couple of different torsion key lifts with this. One of the things that we found with the torsion key lifts for us that don't necessarily work because it takes so much ride quality out of the truck because of the tire and wheel combination that we use. Now that's kind of a choice that we've made, but we carry several different wheel manufacturers. We want to show off the different wheels that we've got here at Thoroughbred while we're on the road. This truck we drive to all the shows that we go to. If we go to visit any manufacturers or are within driving distance, we drive this rig as well. And the ride in it, to be honest with you, sucks. That's the reason why we're going to this ReadyLift kit. This ReadyLift 5 to 6 inch lift kit, this is going to bring the torsion bars down on this truck, so you're going to be able to actually use your stock torsion keys and still clear a 35-inch tire. That's exactly what we're looking for. Weren't so much looking for an off-road height stance with this truck as much as being able to clear these different wheels that we like to use on the truck to display while we're at the different shows. And golly, we're just trying to get a lot of ride quality back because I don't know in different regions where you are, there's a lot of concrete roads in the south, and concrete roads tend to buckle, and when you go down a washboard concrete road and you've got a torsion lift on one of these trucks, it will absolutely beat your brains in. So enough babbling by me, let's get started with the install. First thing that you're going to want to do with this, with any install that you do, is you're going to want to record your stock measurements. ReadyLift includes a section for that in their instructions. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use your tape measure at all four corners of the truck, and from the ground to the top of the wheel well, you're going to want to measure that distance and record those distances in this sheet. We're going to go ahead and take our truck now over onto our 2-post lift. We'd suggest using a 2-post lift for this lift job. This is a pretty labor-intensive lift job. We're going to use the 2-post lift. So we're going to get the truck over there now. Then we're going to, after we record our measurements, we're going to take the wheels off and get started. We're going to roll through this install video the best that we can and try to not make this a 3 or 4 hour install video. Like I said, again, this is a pretty labor-intensive install. We're going to try to cut this down as quickly as we can. So if you have any questions as we're going along, you see something that you want to, you need an answer to, please just give us a call. So let's get started with our install. Before you get started with your installation, you want to check your bill of materials that comes inside the box and your instructions to make sure that you've received all of the parts to your lift before you start tearing anything down. Do not get your truck on the lift and get half of it tore down and then tie into your first box and then realize that you're missing parts or you've been sent the wrong lift kit. That doesn't happen very often, but anything can happen. So before you tear your truck apart, with anything that you do, make sure that you check your bill of materials and you have all the parts you need for the installation. Okay, once you've recorded your measurements and you've got your truck up on the lift, this is up on the 2-post lift for us. The first step that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to remove the front shocks. Now the shocks on this style LML are a little bit different. Got a crossbar here, 2 nuts on the top, and then 1 bolt holding it to the A-arm on the bottom, right there. You want to remove those 3 fasteners and remove the shocks on the front of the truck. Once you have removed your front shocks on the truck, you're going to want to begin to remove your torsion keys. Now your torsion keys are going to be located in these pockets. We've already removed this one. I'm going to show you what it looks like with the torsion key in the truck. So before you begin removing this, you're going to want to mark the position of the bolt. Our bolts were actually flush with the cross member there. Then you're going to want to mark the relation of the torsion key to the bar itself. And then you're going to want to mark your bars for left and right. Now, to remove the torsion keys and to take the load off of the torsion bars themselves, you will need to use the proper unloading tool. The unloading tool look like this here. We have these on the websites from a couple of different manufacturers. We'll have ReadyLifts up as well. To unload the torsion bars, what you're required to do is to take the unloading tool, and it goes right over the cross member just like so. There is a pocket inside of the torsion keys. There's a pocket inside the torsion keys, right here where my thumb is. The ram of the torsion bar unloader actually goes into this. Once you use the torsion bar unloader, you will crank the pressure off of it. That will take the, and I'm gonna call this a pillow block, that will take the pressure off of this pillow block. Then you take your bolt out, remove your pillow block, then take the tension off of it with the unloader tool, and then you can simply knock the torsion bar out of its seat here. This is recessed. We use a brass drift to knock the torsion bars out. You just want to unseat it from the torsion key. Watch the torsion key, it'll fall, so you'll have to catch it, and then you'll push your torsion bar forward to where it is outside of this pocket, and then you can move on to the next step. Okay, now we're going to begin disassembling the front of our Chevrolet. First thing that we're going to remove is the sway bar link. This is going to be a 15 metric wrench on the top. Then we're going to do the tie rod to the steering knuckle. This is a 22 metric on the top. Once the 22 metric nut is removed, if the tie rod turns inside of the sleeve there, you will have to take it off by a wrench, then put a smaller wrench on the top of the tie rod stud. We're going to remove it with an impact. Then to separate the tie rod from the knuckle, we're going to tap it with a hammer outside of the knuckle, and that lets the tie rod fall out clean. Next, we're going to remove the brake caliper and hang it out of the way. 21 metric bolt here to remove the brake caliper and hang it all out of the way. You can take it off in two different assemblies. If you want to bring the caliper out and hang it out of the way and then take the carrier off, that'll be just fine too. Most of you have done a brake job before, or you wouldn't be attempting to put a lift on yourself, so I don't think this is anything that we need to video, but this has got to be removed and hung out of the way. To remove the rotors on this truck, T20 torque screw right here at the top, we'll remove it and the rotor will slide right off. Now we have to begin pulling the bearing assembly. To start by pulling the bearing assembly off, we're going to have to get the cap off of here, and there's a castle nut inside of there holding the axle to the bearing assembly. Once that's done, we're going to begin taking the wiring harness off up here, the ABS, just simply going through and unattaching it from all the secure points that it's got. And then here where his finger is, that is the main connection. We're going to disconnect it there. That's going to allow us, once we have the castle nut off here, that's going to have us prepared to be able to bring the bearing assembly out of the steering knuckle. There's 4 24 metric bolts on the back side of here. Let's see if I can get a little bit better shot there for you. So there's four bolts right here and there. Once those 4 are out, the whole bearing assembly will slide right out. This is the bearing coming off with the nut on the outside off and the 4 bolts around the flange right here. Turn there. A couple soft love taps and some prizing. She should come right on out. The dust shield as well. Okay, now we're going to remove the steering knuckle. With the bearing out, the steering knuckle has to come off. There's a 24 here on the bottom, and then a 19 or an 18 here on the stock, on the top, on the upper control arm. This is a modified upper control arm, but it's going to work the same either way it goes. Once these 2 nuts are off, then we're going to go ahead and just beat the steering knuckle off, and then we'll show you that once we get the nuts off and we get ready to start removing it. We're going to begin removing the steering knuckle now. So already got our castle nut off the top, and we've got the bottom nut removed as well. We're going to leave the bottom nut on 5 or 6 threads. That way when we go to start beating the knuckle off, it doesn't fall off and break our toes. There is an O-ring recessed inside the steering knuckle here. You will have to remove that. This is our handy dandy $30 snap-on O-ring removal tool, for crying out loud, that they conned us into buying. We're going to use it to remove that O-ring. The O-ring will go in the new ReadyLift steering knuckle as well. And then all that's needed to remove the steering knuckle is a BFH. Perfect. Just a little bit of guidance from the bottom. That's it. Now it's time to remove the output axle once the steering knuckle is off. These are 15s around the top of it. I think there's 8 of them. We're going to remove all of those, and then the axle just slides right off. We'll show you once we're ready to remove it. Okay, last bolt on the CV axle. And the axle pops right out. After the CV axles are out, we're going to remove the lower control arm on the truck. The lower control arms, 2 bolts here on either side of the pivot points, here and here as well. We're going to go ahead and remove those. Your torsion bar is actually still suspended here from removing the torsion keys. So this will all come out in one shot. You'll need a little bit of help here bringing your lower control arm out and then the torsion bar attached to it at the same time. But we're going to show you that coming out. Next, we're going to remove the front drive shaft from the front differential. Before we remove the drive shaft, we mark the drive shaft to the differential itself, so marking it in phase. The 4 11 metric bolts to remove it, and then to remove from the transfer case, you just simply slide it forward and it will disconnect from the transfer case. We're going to go ahead and remove the front drive shaft now. Next, we're going to remove the front differential in preparation of bringing the front differential out of the truck. So the 4 18 metric nuts and bolts on either side of the front differential, and then the front differential will just lower right straight out. Next, we're going to remove the front differential. To remove the differential, the first thing you're going to have to do is support the differential itself, and then you will start by removing the actual differential mounting nuts here. Those are 21 or 22 metrics. You disconnect the electrical connector right here. Follow the electrical connector throughout the differential, popping the plastic tabs loose that hold it to the differential. On the driver's side, there is a bolt on the top of the differential itself. Right on the other side of the yoke, you can see on the bottom here, you can see where it's threaded down there. That bolt is going to come out as well. Then there's 2 more mounting bolts, just like on the passenger side. Once you remove all 5 of those bolts, the differential will come out. We'll give you a shot of it as it's coming down. You'll be removing the differential as you're looking from the differential support, as you're looking right there. All right, now we're bringing the front differential down, making sure that you support all the sides. As you're coming down, there's a vent tube on top of the differential. We will unhook it. It is just a normal rubber vent tube line. We'll unhook it from the top and then lower the differential the rest of the way out. Once the differential is out of the truck, next we need to start making preparations for cutting our driver's side front cross member bracket. In order to do this, we're going to go ahead and drop the differential frame out. We left this in the truck and dropped the differential out itself. We're going to go ahead and take this out now because this is kind of going to be in our way of where we're going to make our cut on this front cross member. 2 bolts here and there, and you can just drop it right straight out. Now it's time to cut your front bracket. The driver's side bracket, front bracket, is going to be the only bracket that you cut. This is the front cross member bracket on the truck, driver's side again. So first thing that you're going to want to do from the outside of the bracket, from the inside of the bracket to the outside of the bracket, which would be the outside of the vehicle, you want to measure in 3.5 inches. You can see that we've measured in 3.5 inches there, and we've made our line right here. Once you've made your line, you want to come across the top, make sure you match up all the lines and the back side as well. Once you've done that, it's time to cut. We are going to use a plasma cutter to cut this because we have one here at the shop and it's available. At home, you may not have that. It'll be perfectly acceptable to cut this using a cutting wheel, a Sawzall, whatever you can make a good, clean cut with and you feel the most comfortable with. Here's a shot of the front cross member after it's been cut. Now it's time for our lift assembly. First thing we're going to do is on the passenger side differential drop bracket, we're going to install it. You want to install the drop bracket with the open side facing the inside of the vehicle and the longer side facing the front of the vehicle. This will be using all stock hardware. Now it's time for the driver's side differential drop bracket. The driver's side differential drop bracket is going to utilize the factory bolt towards the rear of the truck. Now you're going to mount this bracket with the open side towards the outside and then the longer side towards the front, as you can see here. ReadyLift will send you and it will be marked as a differential drop bracket hardware bag. We will use this hardware bag to attach this bracket. Once the skid plate is on, we're going to install the steering knuckle now. The steering knuckle supplied by ReadyLift is a 5 to 6 inch drop steering knuckle, obviously. You'll go back with all stock hardware with this. Grab that top one first. Right there on the post. Caught. On the tie rod ends for the ReadyLift system, what you'll have to do is you will have to flip your stock tie rod over to where your grease fitting is on the top. The hole in the ReadyLift steering knuckle is angled that way. So your tie rod is going to go in from the top. Now it's time that we've got our steering knuckle on, it's time to start install our wheel bearing. So first thing you want to do is the stock O-ring that goes on the wheel bearing. The steering knuckle is recessed for it. We want to go ahead and install the O-ring. Lubricate it. Then our dust shield and our bearing. Now your wheel bearing, you're going to want to torque this down to 120 foot-pounds. Once that is done, you're going to want to go through and tighten up both your upper and lower control arm, tie rod, and your lower control arm mounting bolts that come from ReadyLift. Tighten all of that down. The wheel bearing, you want to torque it to 120 foot-pounds. And we will route our ABS cord in just a few minutes. Now it's time to reinstall the passenger side CV axle. So to reinstall the passenger side CV axle, best, easiest way to do it is you want to do the hub side first. So I just bring them through at the back where that you kind of got a little opening there at the back of the lower control arm. Then just get everything lined up and go ahead and engage it to the differential itself. Now your differential, this will be all the 15 metric mounting bolts, stock mounting bolts that you had before here. You want to go ahead and bolt those down. The most important thing to remember here is that you want to use Loctite on the bolts at the differential. Then we're going to install our nut and our dust covering nut on the end of the axle. Then, and this is passenger side again, we're going to route our ABS cable. Now your ABS cable is just going to follow the stock routing, and then it will connect up here. You can use all the stock mounting points, or utilize all the stock mounting points that will still be retained. And you want to make sure that you hook that up next. After this, we will move to the driver's side. Driver's side CV axle, pretty much the same. You can see that we've already got the CV axle in. Only difference on the driver's side is you're going to be using this spacer that is supplied by ReadyLift. You can see that there's a concave side and there's a protruded side there. The protruded side, or taller side, goes into the differential. Concave side goes towards the CV axle itself. ReadyLift supplies you with the hardware for this. This is 17 metric headed bolts. You want to torque these down to 53 foot-pounds. Same on the other side. Again, with this, you want to make sure that you use thread locker. The spacer goes between the CV axle and the differential. Just like so. Like so. Again, we're going to use the ReadyLift supplied hardware here, thread locker, and tighten this down to 53 foot-pounds. So the ReadyLift part number that we're using for this lift is the lift without the shocks, because we wanted to use our own shocks. So we're using the Bilstein shocks that are for the lift that we have here, 5 to 6 inches. This is Bilstein part number 2418023. You'll want to go ahead and install those now. You'll want to use the factory hardware for the lower shock mount. And then the upper shock mount, you're going to use the hardware that is supplied in the package from your shock manufacturer. So once the shock is installed, we just want to kind of start going through and buttoning everything up. Our next step is going to be to put the brake and rotor caliper back on. We're going to, obviously we got everything tore down, so we're going to put new brakes and rotors on the front of this truck. 1 5/16" on the CV axle nut. You want to go ahead and put it in its dust cut, the washer on it, and then our dust cover, we want to go ahead and put that on there and get it on. But we're just basically just kind of doing some finishing touches here before we lower everything down. There's going to be a few things as far as tightening up goes that you'll probably want to do with the truck with a little bit of ground pressure on it as well. Would be my thought. So we're just doing some double checking steps right now before we start lowering the truck down, putting a little bit of weight on the front of it. Just rechecking all of our torques, going through everything. Check, and recheck. Okay, now we're going to begin changing out our bump stops. So you're going to want to remove the bump stops on your truck, your stock bump stops. You can tell these aren't our stock ones. We had a previous ReadyLift kit on this truck. We're going to a little bit different setup here. So to remove the bump stops, it's pretty simple. Just grab it and growl. That's about all you can do. Just grab and twist and, you know, say a few choice words. There's really no right way to do it. You just gotta kind of get it. So now, to set up your bump stop extensions, the first thing that you're gonna do is ReadyLift includes a key system. I'm gonna call it a key system here. Kind of looks like a ninja star. So what you wanna do is you wanna take this keyway and insert it in here and then into the stock pedestal, and you wanna turn it. When you turn it, that engages it to the other locking tabs to where the threaded insert cannot come out. Now, you'll put your bump stop extensions on. So you want your flat side of the bump stop extension against that platform. These long Allen head bolts that are coming in your ReadyLift hardware pack, they go inside the recessed end. And then you'll just want to go ahead and screw those up there and tighten them up. Now comes the fun part of this entire installation, is reinstalling your factory bump stops. So your factory bump stops look like this right here. So what ReadyLift needs you to do to go back into the bump stop extension is they want you to take the bump stop, cut a taper in it with a flap wheel, and then recess it for the Allen bolt that's in here about a 1/2 inch wide by a 1/2 inch deep, which is what we did right there. You can see the comparison between two. Oh, there goes the bolt. See the comparison between the two. Stock one here, modified one here. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this part of the job kind of stinks because these polyurethane bushings, they are still tough. There's really no good way to do it. Just lubricate it and push them up in there. Just keep turning. Eventually they'll fall in. So don't get disgruntled. Bevel it off. Don't bevel it past that first layer. You'll see what I'm talking about there. Recess it so it goes, and there you go, your bump stops are in. Make sure before you put that in though that you tighten up your Allen bolt that holds the bump stop extension on. As we're coming down to the final steps on the front of our lift, one of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to start modifying the brake line before we start with reassembling our brakes and rotors to the front. There's a lower brake bracket. You can see this right here. This is going to be removed from the line. You can see the crease right there where my fingers are. To remove this bracket, a couple different ways that you can do it. You can take a whiz wheel and cut this lightly to where it's easier to bend, and then once you do that, you can bend it and break it off of the bracket. Or you can take a couple pairs of vice grip on this side, then like a channel locks on this side, and just keep prizing and working with it until it opens up enough to where you can slip this bracket completely off. Next, you're going to actually modify the bracket up here. The upper bracket, what you'll be doing with this is you'll unbolt this, and there's a teardrop bracket that comes with the ReadyLift kit. It will go here, and this will extend this line back. This will give you full droop capability on the front axle with the brakes hooked up. This line, you will actually bend this back to where this gives you about another inch here. So I'm going to take you to the other side. We've got the other side done. I want to show you what the setup looks like. So you can see on this side, our brake line is off. You want to zip tie the ABS the electrical line to the brake line, and that keeps those two together and clean and out of the way. Now, here's a picture of the ReadyLift modified brake bracket. You can see it's kind of a teardrop shaped deal there. Just use the hardware that's supplied from ReadyLift and reattach the stock brake line bracket back to the modified ReadyLift brake line extender. And there it is right there. So I hope that gives a good explanation of how this works on the brake line. Again, you're going to want to take the lower bracket off. Just peel it off there. Zip tie the ABS line to the brake line to where you've got good range there on it. And then you're going to extend the upper bracket on both sides back about an inch. Bracket is provided from ReadyLift for that. Okay, now we're going to install our extended sway bar end links that ReadyLift sends for you. So what you need to do is on your factory sway bar end links, you want to get the bushings off. This truck doesn't have very many miles on it. These bushings are in good shape. So we went ahead and removed all 4 bushings from those assemblies. You can see those. So what you want to do is you want to reuse those bushings, but that's all that you're going to reuse. Now we're going to go ahead and install the extended sway bar end links. You want to use the hardware that ReadyLift provides for you here. We'll just lay that bushing there and put our extended sway bar end link through here. Then you want to go ahead and just do your top one too, so you get everything lined up. Washer, bushing, then push your top sway bar down, or the sway bar down. Then just go through and start piecing everything together here. We'll do the top and the bottom, tighten everything up with a 14 metric. So right now on the rack, we're at full droop. So there's a couple of things that I've left loose here because I want to tighten them up when they're not at full droop. The 2 top nuts on top of the shock, I'm going to tighten those up. I'm going to let the truck down with the tires on and then I'm going to tighten those down. But we've got the brakes on, the rotors on. I've got the ABS cleaned up here, the ABS wire, I've got it zip tied to the brake line. To where at full droop, it's not in the way of anything. The steering knuckle is working just fine. So everything's lined up here. We're gonna put our last finishing touches on our very front assembly here, and we're done with the front axle on this. Put the wheels and tires on. Next, we'll be moving on to the torsion bar drop at the back, and we'll show you that next. Okay, we're going to begin removing our torsion bar bracket. Now our torsion bar bracket is directly behind the transfer case, as you know. It's where your pillow block and your adjusting bolt for your torsion bars was, so you want to mark the relationship of this. So I'm just going to mark this right and forward. And then 21 metrics to remove it. Just want to remove the bolts. The wiring for your exhaust will have some factory locations there. You just want to go ahead and remove that. We've got the exhaust out of this truck for the video's sake. Remove both bolts and completely remove the bracket from the truck. Okay, now with the torsion bar bracket out, we're going to put the ReadyLift drop brackets on it while it's out of the truck. So you want to go ahead and attach these using the factory hardware with the ReadyLift symbol down, obviously. And then the same for the other side. All right, so with the ReadyLift drop brackets on there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave those semi-loose so we can get everything in the truck, and then we'll tighten everything as a final assembly once we have it in the truck. Before we put the torsion bar bracket in the truck, we're going to put the torsion bars themselves back in the front of the truck. We want to do this because this is going to allow us the clearance to be able to get our rear torsion bar bracket back in. So we're going to go ahead and put that in now, and then we're going to go ahead and push it all the way through the access hole. And then this gives us the space we need to be able to get back to the bracket on the rear. All right, with our torsion bars in the truck, we're going to go ahead and put our torsion bar brackets up. You're going to be using the hardware that ReadyLift supplies for you, all this grade 8 hardware. So we've got our drop brackets on, so we're going to set those up in the truck right now. I'm going to set the bracket up in the truck. Okay, now we want to tighten all 4 of these bolts down, your 2 factory hardware and the ReadyLift hardware as well. Go ahead and tighten everything down here. Now that we've got our torsion bar bracket in, we're going to go ahead and get our front torsion bar lined up with the front bracket. You'll want to make sure that you've got your indexing marks lined up as you're inserting your torsion bars. I need to get that lined up with that. Back. All right, once you've got that indexed, then you're just going to want to go ahead and put your keys in just like you came out, put your stock keys back in and level them to the exact same level that the stock ones came out. Then you should be right where you want to be as far as your ride quality. Here's a shot with our stock keys installed. You can see in the bottom of the frame here, you can see our adjustment nut. I've got the adjustment bolt. I've got it right where it was when it came out of the stock. I've got the pillow block in here, and I've got my stock keys adjusted to the height that they came out. With our torsion bar where we want it, we're going to put our adjustment tool in. Go ahead and start lining, getting our keys set up here. So we'll run this up right here. Go ahead and put enough pressure on it. Where's the other one? That 1 inch. Is that it? Inch. Thanks, sir. Go ahead and put enough pressure on it to be able to get your block in. You can see the gap coming up right there. Okay. Once we get our block in, we'll go ahead and take the pressure off. Insert our adjustment bolt, and then adjust the truck to the desired height. Okay, now we're gonna get our tires and wheels on. Once our tires and wheels are on, we're gonna go ahead and start putting a little bit of down pressure on the truck. And when we do that, we're going to get our upper control arm or upper ball joint bolts tightened up. This will keep the upper ball joint from spinning on us. Okay, now we've moved on to do the rear of the truck. The first thing that you're going to want to do with the rear of the truck is to get your emergency brake cable underneath of the leaf spring. It's already been done on this truck because we've had a couple of different lifts on here that we've tried. So to do that, to get the emergency brake cable underneath of the leaf, what you need to do is disconnect it right here from the emergency brake cable union or bracket. And then to disconnect it from this frame bracket, there's 2 tabs on it. You just get those with a pair of needle nose pliers, and that'll disconnect that, and this whole assembly will slide out. Once it slides out, you route it underneath of the leaf springs and then reattach everything. Next, for our ReadyLift, what we're going to do is we're going to be taking this wire hanger bracket off of the frame here. It's a 13 metric. Just go ahead and remove it completely. Once we remove that, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove the shocks. We're going to remove both lower shocks, 21 metrics. We're going to be replacing these shocks so these can come off completely. And then we will be removing the ABS line. The ABS line is right here. This is an 8 metric. This is all stuff that we're going to be doing in preparation to drop the rear axle. You can see your ABS right there. Remove it, and then once you've done that for both sides, ABS and the shocks on both sides, your brake cable bracket, the only thing that's left to do then is there is a bracket here for your brake lines. This bracket is actually going to get extended down as well. We'll show you that once we get to it. Okay, our rear brake line bracket is the 13 metric bolt is hidden beneath the wire looms here. It's a little bit difficult to get to. We're going to go ahead and remove that bolt now. Once we remove that, we're going to get it separated from the frame. You will have to bend on your lines just a little bit on your hard lines to get it separated from the frame and get it dropped down. Once we get this once we get this off the frame, then I'll show you the bracket and then how this mounts to the bracket. Okay, this is our drop bracket that ReadyLift sends us. We're going to attach it back to the frame using stock hardware. Once the bracket is attached to the frame like that, what we're going to do is we're going to take the stock lines. We're going to leave everything loose. Stock lines, and we're going to bring those around and mate them up with the bracket. One of the nice attentions to detail that's been throughout this lift is ReadyLift, just like that right there. They made this bracket, this drop bracket, to where the locating datum, or whatever you want to call it there, the locating pin for the bracket, they machined that into the drop bracket to where you didn't have to cut this off of the frame mounted one. So we're going to get everything tweaked up the way we want it here and turned around, all right, like that.
so and get everything attached back with the hardware that ReadyLift sends for us. But that is our brake line drop.
Okay, now that we have all of the wires, ABS, brake, everything detached from the rear end of the truck, it's time to go ahead and put our 5-inch blocks underneath of the back end of the truck. There's really no rhyme or reason to doing this. You can do it a bunch of different ways. Most of you guys are going to be doing this in your driveway, so you'll be using two probably floor jacks, which is totally one way of doing it. We're going to do it a little bit different way here at the shop because we've got a 2-post lift. We're going to go ahead, and this is what we usually do on trucks. We're going to go ahead and usually use we're going to use these jack stands underneath of the rear end. Okay, then we're going to control the truck up and down with a 2-post. Getting the blocks in the truck are just as easy as what it sounds like. 4 bolts to unbolt the axle. You can do it one side at a time, but you'll want to loosen the other side kind of as you go to give yourself more flexibility. Once you've loosened your nuts, the U-bolts will come out. This block right here, your stock riser block, is going to come out, and the ReadyLift piece is going to go in. So we're going to kind of show you, there's really no filming of this. We're going to kind of show you the process as we go along, as we come through here. Once the axle's down, we'll show you kind of putting the blocks in and then getting everything back reattached. So the ReadyLift blocks are marked front and back, or they're just marked to the front, so the front has to go with the arrow pointing towards the front. Here's a shot of the driver's side of the truck with the old block in it and the axle up now. So we're going to get our blocks in, get our new hardware on and get her tightened down, and then just start by putting our new shocks back in and then our brake lines. All right, got our wheels on. I'm going to hook up our ABS cables back up now. And instead of undoing them at the wheels, we just undid them at the frame. So we're going to hang that back now, get it reattached. Adam's going to get our new extended shocks on. Make sure that you change the shocks to this 5 to 6 inch lift. And then that's it. Then we're going to get it on the ground, let you see what the truck looks like, show you the measurements. Remember, before you start this truck, if you did this, you probably did a brake job while you had it down. Remember, when you get in the truck, make sure that you press your brake pedal a couple times till you get the solid pedal back. You know, just the basic stuff. Don't do all this work on your lift and getting everything going and then forget to pump your brakes up and run through the side of your girlfriend's house. One last thing to do on our installation, if you want to put your front splash guard back up, you're going to have to cut out, and I left this here, this is higher, as you can see, than this side. So you have to cut this out, you have to cut these out. What'll happen with the splash guard, it will tuck right underneath the ReadyLift system right here in this seam. That's why you cut the high sides out, and it'll still attach right here. So make sure you put your splash guard back on if you want to retain it. Well, here she be, fully completed with the ReadyLift 5 to 6 inch lift kit. It turned out really, really good. Like I mentioned in the video, ReadyLift does a lot of stuff inside their kits. There's a lot of attention to detail. Adam and I had this kit on. Had we not had to do the video, you probably saw how many times I changed clothes in this. It took us about a week of only being able to work on it for 30 or 45 minutes a day, and then we had other things going on, but should be able to get the lift on the truck no problem in a day's time with pretty simple hand tools. It would be nice to have a lift, but a lift obviously is not going to be completely necessary. So let's take some measurements. I'll show you the measurement to the top of the fender well right there, right at about 47 inches. Right around 48. So we got about an inch rake from front to back. Let's see, here's a little test to see how much you got to jump up in the truck. Looks like it's about 23 inches, so really, really sharp. We've got to drive it just a little bit. It's got totally stock ride. The ride in it is awesome for this size of a lift. We actually had to crank the keys down just a little bit to get a front to back rake. So I think it looks great. Everything clears. tickled to death with the lift. So if you have any questions on any ReadyLift product, give us a call. Thank you for watching.